It's the beginning of April, so I guess it's time to wrap up and put to bed March. I'll put links to the full reviews of these books in the doobly-doo below. So March, what have you got for us? We start with The Senator's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury. I've had this book on my shelf since before it was published, and I've watched as the excitement for this book has just grown and grown and grown. Then I tried it. On my first attempt, I got to page 20. Attempt number 2, page 150. Finally, my third attempt, I finally finished it. And I finally saw what the excitement was all about. This wasn't a bad book, I just had to be in the right frame of mind to read it. So The Senator's Daughter has the makings of a great fairy tale. A girl picked out of one life and placed into the path of destiny for another. And in this new life, she's destined to marry a prince. But this destiny comes with a cost. She only has to touch someone to put them out of action. Permanently. Like everyone says, it's a beautifully told and absorbing story. For me, it kind of lost its way in the middle, but it picks itself up at the end. And have you seen the cover? This is the proof, and it's spot on. But the actual cover, probably one of my favourite covers from last year. Next up was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, book 1 in the Mortal Instruments series. Now I'm not going to go too much into it because I think you've probably already heard of this one and the rest of the series. I was inspired to pick this back up again thanks to the Shadowhunters TV series. This isn't the first time I read this book. I read it a couple of years ago and didn't really pick up book 2 for some reason. So it's kind of, I'm rereading it to get back into the series. And whilst I still enjoyed this book, I think I enjoyed it less than the first time round, possibly because I actually noticed the information dumps, which did noticeably slow down the pacing of it. However, I do still agree with much of what I said in my original review. It kicks off fast-paced and absorbs you into a world full of rich descriptions and intricate detail. It's not hard to see how this world has spawned so many different spin-off stories, and I can't wait to read more of them. I've heard this series really kicks off from book 3, so I'm going to get through book 2 in April, and then we'll get really into the meat of the series from book 3. But I'm really keen to read this series and the Infernal Devices and all the other books that are coming in the series because it does sound rather good. For something a bit different, book 3 of the month was Perigee Me. Let me introduce you to Perijee. He's an almost E.T.-like character with the uncanny knack of growing and growing and growing. He starts off small and he becomes, well, something a little bit uncontainable. And as you can imagine, this throws all kinds of trouble in Caitlin's direction, the girl who discovered him on the beach. Oh my gosh, you guys, this book really puts friendship at its heart. Caitlin discovers Perigee at the opportune moment and paves the way for a heartwarming story that was an absolute pleasure to read. So much so, I think this book probably gets my book of the month. Which was probably then a little bit unfair to my next book, Passenger by Alexandra Brackham. Now this book has been sailing across the high seas on BookTube. I mean, it's been absolutely everywhere. And it sounded amazing. A violin prodigy and pirate. Winner, which is why this is such a shame to say I didn't finish it. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood. Having said this, I'll certainly give it another go at some point because violin and pirates sounds right up my street, and I'm kind of sad that it kind of wasn't at this time. In the UK, if you didn't know, we have a day dedicated to books. It's called World Book Day. On this day, £1 vouchers are issued to every child. These £1 vouchers can be used to buy any number of specially written books for World Book Day, or have £1 taken off any book of your choice. This year I bought 2 World Book Day books, and the first one I want to show you is Spot the Difference. The best way to describe this book is like Mean Girls in book form. The main character, Avery, suffers from a severe form of acne, and there's effectively a miracle cure going on, a clinical trial that she's invited to take part in. She jumps at the chance. The book, a bit like Mean Girls, categorises the school into certain categories, one of them being the A-listers, the popular girls. And this kind of miracle cure provides her an entry point and access into this group. And this story really explores the fallout from joining the popular A-list group. As you can probably tell, this story looks at looks. It expresses that what's really important is what's inside that counts and not what's outside. And very clearly shouts your best friends are the ones that take you for who you are. I will say the story was a tiny bit predictable and you could see almost exactly from very early on where the story was going to get. But the story itself and the message it broadcasts makes it well worth a read. Up a go, and next we have The Drowning by Rachel Ward. This is a book that if you have any experience with drowning, you probably want to give it a wide berth, as the chances of it bringing some of those memories back is highly likely. So The Drowning is a story which starts by a lake, not really knowing what's going on. Across the way there's a girl being helped, a girl called Nisha. Elsewhere we soon discover that his brother, Rob, has died. We know almost immediately it's to do with something that happened by this lake, but we have absolutely no idea what it is, and more importantly, neither does Carol. We discover as the book progresses what happens as Carl starts to get his memories back. It makes it a very thrilling read. It's part ghost story, part dealing with grief, part romance, part mystery, part thriller. There's a lot to do with water in this book. It's everywhere and you basically want to walk away from it as fast as you can. It might even make you want to not touch another drop of water in your life. Wouldn't recommend it, but I do recommend this book. It's a very good book and I loved it. And then we joined Elena, Troy and Gabe in the line for the latest Star Wars film with Kindred Spirits by Rainbow Rowell. This is the second World Book Day book I bought. Elena believes this queue is going to be awesome. It's going to be like a big Star Wars party, drawing like-minded Star Wars people. Yeah, the queue's her and 2 other people. We have Troy, the almost stereotypical Star Wars fan. He's been to all the lines for all the movies and he's got the stories to tell. And then Gabe, who doesn't really come into himself until maybe the second half of the book. These characters, like all Rainbow Rowell characters, are fully developed even for such a short book. One thing to say, if you're a fan of Star Wars or not, doesn't matter. I'm not a fan of Star Wars and I love this book. I'd describe this as a book for anyone who is a fan of anything. It's all about these groups of people coming together, brought together for a single reason. In this case, Star Wars. But it could be any. If you love Fangirl, you'll love this too. Next I picked up Rebel of the Sands by Arwen Houghton. Can we just take a moment to look at that cover? Yeah, okay, we've taken a moment. This is another one that everyone I know seems to absolutely love. It follows a Manny who's described as a sharpshooter who's trying to find a way out of what appears to be a dead-end desert city. She takes part in this contest and it kind of all follows on from there. To be honest, I got halfway through this book and then I attended a book launch for The Parent Problem. And I think because I wasn't really fully invested in this book at the time that I went to that launch, I was still going through it. I hadn't decided to put it down at that point. I was still reading it, I was still giving it a go. But then I went to the launch and The Parent Problem sang is so good, I put this one down. Talking of The Parent Problem, that's what I picked up next. Like I said, I started reading this on the way home from the launch on the train. I mean, if you've seen the video of the launch, you'll know how funny Anna is and how funny she made this book sound, and trust me, it is funny. The title might make this book sound like it's a book all about embarrassing parents. It's not. It starts there. It's with Sky's mum, who decides to meet people by going to ballroom dancing. She comes across as a well-meaning but embarrassing parent. But while it starts there, it's not where it ends, and it's certainly not what the book is actually about. Sky's life is changing all around her. Not only is her mum taking up ballroom dancing lessons, she's got new neighbours next door, including a boy. And all these changes happening very quickly have thrown her world into a bit of a spin. I have to admit, I did have a little bit of a wobble about Sky near the beginning. I kind of loved her at the start, had a bit of a wobble, but then I recovered. She's going through a lot in school, and one of those things is bullying, and her kind of feeling of her mum isn't really helping the issue. Whilst it covers all these themes, it can still be classed as an enjoyable and very funny read. And to finish off, I'm currently reading Just One Day by Gail Forman. I've had this book on my shelf for so long, and I finally got around to reading it. I'm only 120 pages in, and I want to visit Paris. I've never had the desire to visit any place before in my life, but I kind of want to now. I've started reading this. I'll wrap it up properly next month, and there'll probably be a review on my blog in the next week or so. But I have to just kind of say, I'm reading this now. I'm actually really loving it. My name's Jesse, and we've just read to life March. Until next time, bye guys!